We the people, ABC Amber TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best. We the people, ABC Amber TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
Get trained as an IT professional from the comfort of your home. Dynamic Tech Academy gives you a unique opportunity through our 6-month program, during which you learn skills to transition to being a full-time IT professional. Over 80% of our students have no prior IT background, yet the vast majority of them land jobs a month after they start applying. Our ultimate goal is to reach 100% student placement, so we work with every student until he or she gets a job. Upon successful completion of the course, we will give you a resume, interview preps, one-on-one coaching from experienced instructors, and job placement assistance. Within this course, you get more than 300 hours of theories combined with real-world applications and practical skills you can apply on day one on your job. At the end of the program, our students can be certified as Red Hat Systems Administrator, AWS Cloud Engineer, AWS Security Specialist. Visit our website at www.dynamictechacademy.com to register.
Our vision in this interim government is to make ABC a leader and a real warhorse of our struggle. We want to grow it, expand it, hire and train more hands, and broadcast round the clock, around the world, and take command of the media space of this world.
You can enjoy all round the clock 24/7 exclusive moments of bliss as an ABC Amber TV Club member. A cappella. Latest Nigerian/African movies, global politics, ABC Amber News and updates, historical documentaries, and lots more. In our daily programs, we have Undaunted, ABC Amber News, bringing into the news untold stories with Onyi Okpala and Star Smart. Exclusive discussion, revolutionary panel conversation, infotainment, edutainment, intro governmental debates on topical issues with Tarh Paddy, State of the Liberation Movement, Fronting IG, and People of Ambazonia's position. The Struggles Weekly Update with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, FASCE. Health is Wealth, Health Education and Awareness within the Ambazonian community with Dr. Yaya. Liberation Prayer, an intercessory ministry for Ambazonia with Pastor Victor Mba. Our Freedom, spiritual awareness and education for the Ambazonian community with Pastor Victor Mba and Pastor Commando. Church and Politics, neutralizing the myths and preconceived religious and political philosophies that limit the Christian involvement in the realms of decent politics with Pastor Commando. The Horizon, the voice of the Ambazonian woman with Dr. Patience Abiedo and Lady Casey. Our Amber History, bringing to limelight the hidden history of Ambazonia to the world with Pastor Commando. Appointment on community building, education on patriotism within the Ambazonian communities with Ma Rachel Itatima. ethics for an imagination, watchdog of basic principles and morals of a nation at war with Dorothy Ngwa. Upcoming programs: Pigeon News, Vernacular Talk Show, County Roots, Activists Corner, Amber Focus, only on ABC Amber Television. We the people, the voice of the voiceless. For 24/7 access, subscribe as a club member on www.abcambertv.com/subscribe.
Yes. Are below this way pass I go begin to no work. 90s. Yes. On a VCM. 90s. 90s so. They don't work am. The ship no wipe last they don't run.
All this scatter all over the spot.
All this scatter all over the spot. 90s. They fry and rice now they go. Yes, 90s we go. And that. 90s we go drop. They don't run. They don't run. And this. Now FMs are going to begin them. Live. Yes. And this. Yes. Now the few of the past are going to begin in this. Where they walk, do you walk. Now the few begin in this. Yes. No, but all squad come out. Now the few begin in this. They don't come out, walk, do you walk. Yes. Don't come out. Oh, in this. Yes. Today now Wednesday the 28th. The FMs are gone. We there for road live. Obama sing. We boys them. Yes. Another ship no wireless in this. Yes. We want show them say now we then get we will show them something. Yes. FMs are going. We picking the double years something. Yes. And then also. And then also. They don't take up. They don't take up. And then that. And then that. And then I'll go. They don't take up. And then that's all. FM Sagon. Fima Shasagon. Ya cafe de up. Ya cafe de up. You don't show them. She know why blast them. Why una not stand? Nonsense. I say una strong, una strong. Una go stand. Nonsense. Yes, FMs are gone. Don't show them something. We begin them. Now for Bamis in this life for good drum. FMs are gone. Live. For good drum. They don't run. They don't run. They don't run. Yes. The fried rice. The fried rice. Yes. And then that come out stand for road. Need to enter most here. Now look and then that. And then that. And then that for road. And then that. And then that. As Sagon, she shake no day. She shake no day. FM Sagon. One thing, she shake no day. She shake no day. Boom boom.
Good evening and welcome to this important broadcast. As you can see from our caption, it would appear that the French Republic of Cameroon, the occupiers of the Southern Cameroons, are increasingly trying to invest economically and militarily at the Bakassi Peninsula, which is an oil-rich region within the Southern Cameroons. A few months ago, we had some politicians in the Nigerian government that was prior to the presidential elections. They were also laying claims over this same region. There's so much at stake when it comes to that, and we will get into that very shortly. But before that, I'd like to tell you, Ambazonians watching us, and those who are watching us on Facebook and on YouTube and on all our social media platforms, to share and invite someone. Tell them we're live and we will have a vast conversation this evening. Well, 2 nights ago, a pastor in Bamenda was shot in her church. Was shot. We are told that she's still alive, and that from reports coming in from the hospital, she was not affected. Her lungs were not affected. We also told the bullets have been removed. That is a developing story. As soon as we have full details, we'll probably have to bring that to you with Undaunted on Monday. But yeah, the circumstances that led to that are very unclear. Other sources are saying there was no crossfire, there were no serious gunshots around the vicinity, and if it was just random killing, why will he target the pastor considering where she was at the time of the service? Because she was picked up in church. And our intelligence is telling us that there are very high chances it could be targeted killing. It could have been targeted. And who is behind it? We know Cameroon, in their techniques, want to levy accusations on the Amazonian Restoration Forces. But what would be the interest of the Amazonian Restoration Forces to target a pastor who has done nothing wrong to them? It is not a custom to find that Amazonian Restoration Forces would target civilians or would even target a woman of God that has committed no crime. We are sure who definitely would have been the mastermind behind such or supposed targeted killing or bulleting of a pastor. Who would have been behind that evil act? We are investigating it, and like I've promised to you, as soon as we have details, we'll provide them to you. Let's get back to our main conversation of today. As you can see, French Cameroon seeks to expand her military and economic presence in the Gulf of Guinea. In fact, according to some reports coming in from their own French Cameroon bloggers, um, I like to get that report and I give it to you the way it is. According to some recent sources, we are told that the daughter of the former president of La République du Cameroon, Aminatu Ayijo, has officially been appointed spokesperson of the scientific committee for the 15th anniversary of the retrocession of the Bakassi Peninsula to Cameroon. So this is an idea of them seeking to see how they can expand their military presence. We know of how huge the military presence is already there. And also to do economic investment. We also know that Cameroon and Nigeria have been illegally exploiting and raping Bakassi for decades. There's a couple with the third edition of the Awards of the Future. The event will be held on August 14th, 2022 at the Hilton Hotel in Yaoundé, that's the capital city of French Cameroon, in the presence of representatives from 15 countries, African countries, under the theme Paul Biya, the African Sage. Now, so they have tagged Biya as a messiah, as an intellect, as a wise man. So the ceremony will be broadcast live by several television channels, including Canal 2 International, Info TV, Cam 10 TV, Vision 4, LTM, RTE, du Congo Brazzaville. So this a master calculation, a big calculation, and this intends communicates a serious message into the international scene. Cameroon is doing this propaganda, planning to have this huge occasion to tell the world, listen, we are still in control of the Southern Cameroons, and what your economic interest is telling their partners that, listen, we still have a hold of the source or the breadbasket of this region. The Bakassi Peninsula, it would interest you to know that it is among the world's richest petroleum deposit environment in the world. That's why Nigeria wanted it at all costs, or wants it even until today, though they have not made any direct statements in this regard. That's why they want it. Cameroon will kill every human living in the southern Cameroons to have these resources that we own. These are our God-given resources. Well, it is nothing new that we don't know. My question now, and that's why I have Sylvester Zama here, and I have Barrister Tim. I have also, in this very strange topic, I'll be having Dr. Tita G. Emmanuel. The question is, what can Ambazonia do? What should Ambazonia do now? What are the projects? What can we, the people, do to stop the invaders, the colonizers, from taking totally what belongs to us? It's a propaganda. We know the objective, and the objective is to psychologically demoralize our people, particularly the youths who are thinking and hoping that they can be an Ambazonia. French Cameroon is doing all of this to tell them, listen, there's no future for anything that has to do with an Ambazonia. It is incumbent, therefore, on the interim government led by President Sako to craft ways that will boost the energy of the youths that are mostly and are the ones suffering the brunt of this war. What is the strategy? Have we lost creativity? If we still have some creativity and we are hoping to raise the momentum at the ground, what should we do now? Is Cameroon beating us in our own game? What can we do? Do we just do some propaganda? Is it not yet time for us as a people to start winning and owning and controlling territories like the ECOC Nigeria border that Cameroon is making millions and billions of francs CFA quarterly and yearly? Look at the Bakassi Peninsula. Is it not time for us to strategize and own it? Look at what is happening in Eddie now. It's happening in all the rich oil sources in our homeland. What are we doing and what should we do will be the main discussion of tonight. And I will not waste one more minute of your time. And just right after this break, I will be bringing to you our panelists who are seated, ready and willing to have this conversation. Stay tuned.
Our vision.
Ladies, gentlemen, Dr. Tita, Barrister Fru, SOS Zama, you are very welcome. Good evening and welcome once again.
Thank you, Paddy.
He left his
Thank you,
seat
Paddy.
at the time we needed him the most. Okay.
Good evening.
SOS.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you, Paddy.
Yes, Ama, you're welcome too.
Thank you.
We're at a critical point, I would say turning point. And the comportment of French Cameroon is eminent. It's clear. They are not willing to back down. They are not willing for any fair negotiations. While we are seeking to have a negotiated settlement or to push Cameroon out, they are kind of going about business as though nothing is really happening. You all have read the articles I forwarded to you. It speaks volumes. I may want to start with you, Secretary of State Zama. Please, you have to talk to us. Perhaps you will cue us into this conversation. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Paddy. I think this fight that Cameroon is trying to fight, it's a foregone conclusion. It's a fait accompli. They cannot win this fight even diplomatically. The case that the International Court of Justice um, ceded to Cameroon was not ceded to Cameroon per se, but it was ceded to Ambazonia. Because even when the UN Secretary of State Kofi Annan came to Cameroon to ratify that agreement, he came in with two different maps. He came with a map of southern Cameroon and he came with a map of La République du Cameroon. Given that the Constituent Assembly of the AU has stated all boundaries acquired at independence are immutable. Given that particular act that Cameroon is a signatory to, does not give them any right, or does not give them any privileges or ownership of Bakassi, which is within the Milner Accord, which was ratified by the Anglo-German Treaty of 1913 and the Wilson-Milner Accord in 1935 and 46. So those accords were not drawn with Cameroon. Cameroon was never a signatory of any of that, and they are just an occupier. And every occupier always has to go. And the time is coming when La République will have to leave, whether they like it or not. We cannot fight this fight on every front, yes, but we are creeping towards their core valued properties. And those things are going to be hard with time. We are making progress, even though some people may say we are not moving fast enough. To attack infrastructures like the oil rigs in that area needs a lot of logistics that we are at this moment we are still working on that logistic to be able to counter those the fortification in that area. I think this is just a sham. It's a sham. If you look at the history of the Bakassi and in Nigeria, Cameroon, this thing was a foregone conclusion. Cameroon, in 1966, Buba Tafawa, the president of Nigeria or the premier of Nigeria, had basically said the Bakassi was not a territory of Nigeria. Even though Nigeria moved into that territory, because there were not people, Cameroonian population to inhabit that area, Nigerian inhabited it, and it was a very it's a very resourceful area with a specific type of marine animals that is not sought out all around the world at very high prices. So the Nigerians occupied that area until they discovered oil there and started planning their rigs in, I think, in 1972 74. But that's not something that Cameroon is going to win. It's not a winnable. They can celebrate that victory and call it Ahijo was a wise man, or Pobia was a wise man. Yeah, he was wise because he knew the Nigerian military was much more superior than the Cameroonian military, and it was nothing they could fight. Cameroon could not fight Nigeria at that point in time, so they just had to resolve this in a legal manner, which fortunately they gave back the territory to Ambazonia, because we were linked with La République, not given to La République per se. Thank you.
I like the fact that you saying that Biya understood the strength of his military and would rather take a legal route. Yes, we know that conflicts are solved in two ways, either in a court or on a negotiation table. And the United Nations in less than 2 decades has proven to us that is possible. Barrister Fu, I'm coming to you with this. It would appear that legality or legal arguments within international jurisdictions seem to be working so well for Mr. Biya, but it's not gaining any traction for Southern Cameroons, especially as this matter is concerned, for all the cases we happen to have won.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I totally disagree with you. For one thing,
Okay.
the Bakassi Peninsula is known to belong to the Southern Cameroons. The United States knows it. The Nigerians know it because Nigeria. Let me finish.
No.
Let me talk.
Ahead. No, go ahead, please.
The United States knows it. The Nigerians know it because Nigerians are the only ones that have a boundary with the Southern Cameroons, including Bakassi. The United Nations, it was the President of the General Assembly that arrived with those two maps. It was not even Kofi Annan. It was the President of the General Assembly who came to Yaoundé with those two maps. That those two maps indicated that this where there's the conflict, there is a third party. The map of the Southern Cameroons was brought along with the map of the La République du Cameroon. If you look at when the surveyors came to the ground, they drew those maps following the ancient boundaries as established by OAU in its Constituent Assembly Article 4B of the Constitutive Act of the OAU, as it then was, now African Union. The whole world knows that Bakassi is in the Southern Cameroons. If anybody can sit and say that it's propaganda, yes, it's propaganda, but let's watch it. I have been saying all along that it would do nothing to attack even one of the rigs in the Gulf of Guinea, or to arm our boys in the sense that they bring trouble in the Gulf of Guinea. We will one day find La République, through its French accolades, drilling oil in Bakassi. This so-called ceremony is to give the world, or of course the French world, or the French business people, that Bakassi is free. We have it. We can protect you. With the military is there. Everybody is there. There is no Ambazonia there. And you will see all French oil companies enter Bakassi and start drilling. The question is, what do we do? This is the time for us to act. I know that we lack resources. That I know. But we are drafting. That money is not enough to do anything. But if we can double up in the arming of Indian boys, and not only Indian boys, move some restoration forces into Indian and give them big rubber gun just to trouble that area, to trouble Bakassi, nobody will attempt to go there. Until when we have the resources, if we are still going to fight this war till eternity. When we finally get the enough resources, we will start on those rigs in the Gulf of Guinea. The Gulf of Guinea belongs to us. I would have said that we should go to the International Court of Justice. We are not yet a nation that can take La République to the International Court of Justice. No, we cannot, because we lack jurisdiction. For now, the question is, are we just going to sit around and claim that, oh, it's propaganda? I am saying that our military strategists, our military planners should take into consideration the breadwinner of the Southern Cameroon, which is in Jan Division, and make every effort to arm Jan Division to the teeth. We may not have the resources to do that effectively, but we can do something. Our restoration forces in Jan are still there. We just need to beef them up and give them all what it takes to go to they know the creeks better than anybody. And I'm not a military man, but when I listen to a military man talk about propaganda, oh, this and that, listen, we need to act. Somehow we need to act. Why are we fighting and dying when the only place where the resources will come to build the nation of Ambazonia are exposed to the enemy? Don't be surprised, the enemy is already the military garrison is already there in Bakassi, because that's why they are killing us. Let nobody be fooled that La Republic wants only the rest of Ambazonia. Their problem is Bakassi. Their problem is the Gulf of Guinea, where the world's deposit of crude oil is. So what do? Just fold our hands and say, okay, it's a propaganda. The thing that belongs to us will have all the legal arguments and so on and so forth. I have the legal arguments. I filed my team. When I say I mean my team. The legal team of Ambazonia, we filed a criminal complaint to the ICC in 2020, December 2nd. Where are we? It's lying there. They are telling us that they don't have resources to investigate. They are telling us that they don't do this. That is a criminal complaint, a human rights criminal complaint. The genocide committed on our people. If the world is quiet about it, and we know that this thing, we have to do it ourselves, and we sit here and we talk about propaganda. It is propaganda to show the world that Bakassi is free. Come on! And you will find a lot of investors from France, oil companies from France, Elf leading. Perenco is already there. Perenco will expand to Bakassi. And where are we? By the time we open our eyes, they are drilling. My suggestion is that we don't have any political presence in Dian, but we have a military presence. We have our boys. We can beef up those boys, put the right equipment in their hands, and let them trouble that area. If we just sit here and say that it's propaganda, we are finished. Why are we fighting and dying? La Republic is killing us because of crude oil. They're killing us because of Bakassi.
Yeah.
And we sit here, the main part of the place where we are supposed to be defending, we expose it to La Republic, and we talk about propaganda. I beg to differ.
You have exhausted that point very much, and it would appear that since the wheels of justice are not necessarily working in our favor right now, we will have to really all our energy towards firepower.
Let me clarify that. No, Paddy, let me clarify that. The wheels of justice have not started turning on us. That doesn't mean that we have been refused justice by the world. No. Hold that. For the first time, listen to me now. Listen to me first. Listen to me first. Listen to me. For the first time, the ICC has accepted the complaint we filed. The only problem they have is looking for resources to investigate and take action.
So they need a sponsor.
You cannot claim that the words of the justice is not for us, because we don't have justice, and nobody claims. Look, listen. Let me repeat myself. The world knows that Bakassi belongs to us. Even the ICC that passed that judgment, they knew that Bakassi does not belong to La Republic of Cameroon. Go and read the Green Treaty very well and see. Read it between the lines.
I'll come back to you on that. But let's just give opportunity for Dr. Tita to come in real quickly. It is expedient for us to escalate firepower as the fastest solution to the carnage that is befalling our homeland. And as a way to stop this provocation with Cameroon getting into Bakassi, appointing her colonial administrators, and organizing festivities, getting credits for themselves. Dr. Tita, what do you think?
Thank you so much, Director Paddy. Greetings, Senior Barrister. Greetings, SOS Zama. I'm extremely excited to be here today and also to talk on this discussion in regards to the article that was written out there by one fellow there talking about the ceremony that's coming up in neighboring La République du Cameroon. I must admit that I love the approach that Senior Barrister Fu took in looking into this ceremony that's supposed to be coming up. But before I even attempt to even address that issue, Director Paddy, initially I think you had two questions. What should we do initially, and is Cameroon defeating us in this war? In response to your first question, I think we are doing what we are supposed to do. Thanks to the great leadership of the president, the firepower has not stopped on the ground. Despite even all the confusion, the infiltration, the destruction, the sellouts that La République has had in the struggle, and despite billions that La République has pumped in to destroy this struggle, the focus and the vision of the president has not changed and is a free and independent Southern Cameroon. There's still active firepower going on the ground. I mean, before this program started, I saw the videos you just showed us here from Ngoketunja with Field Marshal Sagon and his boys on the ground executing and delivering and, affirming to their commitment for a free and independent Southern Cameroon. So we, like Barrister Fu was just saying, that maybe in some areas like in the Dian and the Bakassi Peninsula area, maybe we might have to increase the firepower there on the ground. We'll leave that for the defense team to look into that. But is Cameroon defeating us like in this war, like the other question you had? Absolutely no. Let me tell you, we are defeating the colonial regime hands down in this war. Let me tell you, if they were anywhere close to defeating us in this fight, they would have declared victory long time ago. I mean, you see the results on the ground every day, how they've been killed there on the ground. Their colonial militaries are being killed there by the boys on the ground defending the territory. So, and we will continue to do so. The fact that the international community is not making an open statement does not mean that they are not watching what is going on. It's a process. So they're following through the process, and the right time will come thanks to our resistance on the ground and our resilience to support this struggle. We will defeat La République du Cameroon. And once it gets to that time, the international community will have no option but to come and make the pronunciation and give us the victory that we so desperately need at this time. But while waiting for them to make that decision, we will continue to defend homeland until that the time will come when the Republic will come to that negotiation table, or the international community will be pushed or forced to make those pronouncements. The article that you shared online that I read, I'm going to tell you, I looked at it in three different aspects. It's evident and it's out there that Bakassi Peninsula belongs to the Southern Cameroons. It's not to La République du Cameroon. Like the senior barrister and SOS Zama rightly said, that the maps are there that clearly defines it. The legal boundaries are there. These are recognized boundaries, internationally recognized legal boundaries that we have within our territory. But I look at this ceremony that they're coming to supposedly neighboring La République du Cameroon to have in their colonial capital, Yaoundé, in three different ways. First is the aspect that the senior barrister just introduced, which is bringing these investors to come in and talk to them about Bakassi Peninsula to see if they can come in there and exploit our resources. That could be a potential part of their discussion, because I will tell you for a fact, talking to people in Washington, D.C., that sometimes these resources in any territories in the world can be there for over 30 years and it's not exploited. Or sometimes it can be there depending on what time before they can bring in the right company to start exploiting the resources. So I don't know if that's part of the discussion that's going to be going on in Yaoundé. But like the senior barrister is suggesting, I'm beginning to think that yes, part of this ceremony might lean towards that discussion. Hey, there is Bakassi here. Can you guys come and exploit it within this short time while we get some? So why they get some money before either they come to the negotiation table or before the international community makes a decision or come out openly with their final decision. They want to see if they can tap into those resources from our territory. But let me say one thing, because I read that article very clearly and closely from our analysis. First, the author of that message want to pass out one message, which is paint the regime or the colonial genocidal regime and the colonial genocidal president as clean, as, oh, this guy is not wanting to fight war. This guy, they had the opportunity there with Nigeria where they could fight war, but they decided to come to the negotiation table. So he wants to paint this colonial genocidal regime and colonial genocidal president as one that is clean to the international community, because they know already, the international community knows that Cameroon is committing huge crimes there in our territory, killing our people. So they want to see, let's just write something that will clear the regime. That's the aspect of the international community. And then second, my interpretation in regards to painting the regime as clean is because that regime of neighboring French Cameroon is getting close to a time where they need to have someone there as the president. And they have to paint the regime as clean and not wanting to fight war, because they don't want either the Nordis or the Bamilikes from coming into war with them once they make these switches or these changes that they're supposed to make there as far as selecting who to be their president is concerned. So they want to paint all of the country as, oh, the country is supposed to be peaceful, nobody should be fighting. But I would think that if the Nordis or the Bamilikes accept or allow something like that, then I think that they are fools if they cannot step up and fight against this regime. Now, the third aspect that I saw in that write-up was the aspect of them bringing in Kamto. I thought initially, I knew for a fact initially that maybe Kamto was moved out of the regime to act as an opposition leader, and in the same manner in which they used John Fundi, to act as an opposition leader for people to think that there's some democracy there. They're looking for a way to bring him back in now to the regime. So this in that write-up, they're bringing Kamto to come in there as one of the people that defended La République du Cameroon during the court case that had to do with Nigeria. So that would be, I'm thinking, correct me if I'm wrong, Senior Barrister Fru, that would be the first time that Kamto would show up in an official ceremony with the regime. And so that's bringing Kamto back in and then say, okay, let's work together. Oh, before they change this president, let's not see some riot come out there, from the Bamilikes. So, I mean, the strategy is pretty big, and I could analyze it in so many different ways. But what is the fact? The fact is very clear that Bakassi Peninsula belongs to the Southern Cameroon, and the international community is aware of that. They can keep stealing our resources temporarily. It's temporarily. In the way that they do now, while waiting that the international community should make that decision and to see if we are going to continue. We're going to continue to exist. But like Senior Barrister said, we have our boys there in Indian. We just need to continuously support them. The Indian draft is coming up very soon. I think the president had a town hall meeting yesterday that would look into the draft, the launching of the draft that is supposed to start very soon. We are hoping that if there's anyone that has been sitting on the sideline and thinking that, oh, this struggle was going to fail with the help of the coup plotters or the sellouts that collected money to destroy the struggle, we were afraid that it was going to fail. This struggle is alive, and we will defeat La République du Cameroon in this fight. So we have to come back in and let's continue to draft and let's defeat La République du Cameroon in this thing. I could talk all day.
I like the fact that Dr. Tita, maybe you want to fixate yourself. I like the fact that you want to fixate yourself on the camera so that I understand you're moving a lot, but you're looking great. But this is the point. You have brought in many facets into the discussion, but there's still an interest point, and you guys will bear with me for taking an antagonist role and challenging you people to speak. I'm doing so because at the end of the day, the legalities that you're all claiming, the presence you're all claiming, Amazonians need results now. Two maps were presented to BIA. Of what gain is the two maps if we've not heard the United Nations? In fact, the UN is not even updating on their platform the carnage that is ongoing because of Cameroon despising the territorial boundary of one section of the Cameroons. So if you look at all of that, you put it together, Comrade Zama, it is complex. Now, Kofi Annan intervened, and there were peaceful negotiations. Nigeria handed over custody to a colonizer. They are not ignorant that you have Cameroon forces. Now, when you have these same people who handed over to Cameroon, when they are addressing us, they address us as separatists. Not even recognize us as custodians of the land, defending our sovereignty. They are aiding and abetting the government of Yaoundé to despise negotiations. Now, my question to you, Comrade Zama, it's clear we have to do something. We have to take our responsibility and make sure that we get our freedom, since it will not be given to us in a platter of gold. What is it that we are not doing rightly in that will effect some significant changes and will enable us not just to advocate over this land, but to actually win it militarily, own it, control it, and probably get some resources from it, and get international partners looking at us with some seriousness and respect. Please talk to us. You're muted. You're muted.
The realities of the war at this point in time, we are doing the most we can do with the resources we have. As I said, logistically, for us as a government, right now, we are not able to do the things that we can do to hamper the exploitation of oil and gas on the peninsula. There are the Chinese there, the Malaysians are there, the Gazprom, the Russians are there, the British companies are there, the American companies there. So there are companies that are doing exploitation, down service and up service, those that are servicing those companies. They are all in that area. We are fighting a tough war with very limited funding coming from our people. Until our people commit themselves to funding this war, we will not be able to do the most at the shortest time possible that we can. But we are doing the most that we can do at the short.
I'm not cutting you short. Before you start accusing our people of being unable to fund the war, which I think they need to see Amazonia as a reality and based on something, I want to ask you a question. You've just said something very important. The Chinese are there, the British are there, and all of these different people, and these are important stakeholders and partners. These are people that could make things happen if they know that we have a whole of the territory. And Cameroon is organizing this August 14th activity to tell these guys, listen, your interest is safe. It's quite a serious thing. Do you think we have to diplomatically approach these people and quote them all these laws that this place belongs to us, or we will have to take it somehow by force or do some sabotage? Because Barrister Fru said something, and that's why I'm challenging you to talk heavy. He said, We need to blow off some things, and so that the stakeholders can see their interests going in rambles. And if they cannot fund Cameroon from fighting, or something can happen. So that's where I want you to take it before you get to telling our people how less they are funding the war.
No,
Go ahead.
those are legitimate economic targets that we can target. That's true. Nobody is disputing that. The ideas that we have are lofty at this point in time. We have to have the manpower, we have to have the logistic, we have to have the equipment. We are not saying that we cannot do it. I want to be honest to our people, because sometimes we say a lot of lofty things and then let our people down because we are not able to execute what we tell them. Uh, yes, it's a difficult war. Yes, the same thing happened in South Sudan. The Sudanese government also claimed territories in oil fields in southern Sudan. But what happened to that? They had to give that up. Eventually, um, we will get the knowledge, we'll get the ability to be able to confront these things, and we'll be able to fight in those oil fields when need be. At this point in time, we are getting the primary duty that we have is to protect our civilians, in our communities, and all the other things that we are doing as a people. But to talk about hitting Bakassi, yes, that's a big target. That is something that we must do. It's not something that we should ignore. It's something that we must do. But on the other hand, we have to start realizing that as a government, we have to put all aspect of our diplomacy into getting in contact with all these people. We have to see what the terms of those contracts are. We have to be able to find out what are the deals that they have given to the Chinese, to the Americans, to the British, to the French, and all those people who are exploring that area. And I've said this a lot of times. As a community, we can have a lot of influence in these companies. A lot of these companies that are exploiting the properties in the oil in Bakassi are all publicly owned companies. We could buy stocks in these companies and have a say in these companies when it comes to meetings with the company heads. It's a backward door that we can go through to be able to make our concerns known. Not only that, we can actually fight the war, which we are doing, but it's progressing, even though it's not progressing at the speed at which people are thinking. We have to give our soldiers on the ground a lot of courage. We have to give them a lot of commendation for the fighting that they are doing, because we are actually beating La Republique at this war. Yes, this theater of war should be changed. It should be changed in that area where it's affecting them much more. Cameroon, to be honest, is not producing. Many of the companies out there have abandoned their rigs, because Cameroon is producing about 56,000 metric 56,000 barrels a day. At the peak of it, they were producing about close to 180,000 barrels a day. They are producing 56, just about a mere one-third of what it was. So this war is having a big effect on them, the people on those islands. They've had a couple of crashes in that islands. Helicopters have crashed and burned, even though a lot of those things are not published out there. But the economic pressure that we are putting on Cameroon is making them unable to have those people service those rigs, because Cameroon has a portion of the oil that comes in there and a percentage of the sales. If they are not getting it, they are losing money. And fighting this war is costing them tens of billions of francs every month. It's not sustainable, and we are going to bleed them. And bleeding them, we might not even need to even touch Bakassi for it to have the effect. But symbolically, Bakassi is the heart of it, and we will have to reach there when that time comes.
That's what I want. Yeah.
Can I?
Now, yes, just react very quickly.
I am getting a little bit uptight.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the draft program, Indian is almost the last. If you look at the draft program, Indian is almost the last. The conditions for the draft Ndian will not be able to meet those conditions. I am saying here that Ndian should be made an exception and taken over by the federal government somehow. Listen, I am cognizant of the fact that we don't have the means to blow up anything in that area. But if we fortify, beef up our Amazonian restoration forces in the creeks of Ndian and put the right equipment in their hands. Not much. I'm not saying that we should do that. We should look for huge sums of money to buy huge equipment and so on, because we are not able to. We cannot. But to put Ndian at the tail end of the draft is to ignore the economic potential of Ndian. And I can tell you that the draft of Ndian will yield nothing if we take the same conditions that apply to the whole to all the counties in Amazonia. I'm saying that Ndian, which is an economic live wire of Amazonia, should be an exceptional place for us to escalate. Look, the boys in Ndian are very volatile. They know the creeks better than anybody. And we can beef them up, bringing in some of the boys that we may have in the surrounding counties like Meme and other places, bring them in and let them work together, work in the creeks and trouble that area. I'm not saying that we can blow up anything now. I don't know why the military people are not understanding what the listen to me, what the economic stakes are. La Republic can do all the propaganda. Can I finish?
A moment, please. Yeah,
I will lose my train of thought. I will lose my train of thought.
Just give me a few minutes. I'm trying to coordinate something here. I like what you're saying. It's a repetition of what you said earlier, and I believe what you're saying.
No. I talked about the draft of the.
Yeah, just a moment. It's in agreement with what SOS Zama is saying, that we will need to use that as an option. But there are other facets in what he said, which I don't know if you think we can use it in addition with what you are saying, using the direct and the indirect approach, because there are stakeholders involved, there is interest involved. It would amount to a huge loss if we go aggressive with what you're suggesting, considering the fact that Cameroon is using or having much more money to invest just to secure their interest. That will help you to in whatever.
Now listen, maybe you guys may think that I am not cognizant of what is Indian. Let me give you the companies that are Indian. You have Perenco. Yeah. I just came from ground zero, so I can tell you. You have Perenco, you have Ada, which is Chinese. Perenco is made out of the French and the English. You have the Ada, which is the Chinese. You have the Russians who are drilling there. And you have Elf, the French company. And they are all drilling in the Gulf of Guinea. They have not touched Bakassi. La Republic is launching Bakassi from August. They're launching Bakassi from August. And we cannot sit here and not escalate a little bit of what is happening in Ndian to give these people the impression that Ndian is not as safe as La Republic is trying to present. Listen.
Yeah.
Listen. Yes. Listen to me very carefully. Anybody who thinks that we have not done diplomacy right to the doorsteps of the British and even the French and the United States and other stakeholders, the only people that we don't have any dealings with are the Chinese. We are at war. We don't need any diplomacy to blow up a rig if we have the means. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we already have Amazonian Restoration Forces in Dian. We need to raise the stakes by beefing up that fighting force, by giving them a little bit of means to trouble. Listen to me now. To trouble them in such a way.
And you are suggesting that the interim government strategically should just own Dian because of what is happening. That's your suggestion. Am I correct?
That's my suggestion. We may not own all of it, but we should attempt to own Dian.
Yes, pause 1 minute. That the federal government should just own Dian. Pause 1 minute. SOS Zama, what do you think about that from a technical perspective?
What does he mean by owning Dian?
I'm saying that.
Let me explain that. No, he has asked a question. Let me explain that. Let me explain how you own Dian. Let me explain how you own Dian. Let me explain how you own Dian. You own Dian by beating up the Amazonian Restoration Forces in Dian, by doing everything to put equipment in their hands that they can trouble that area, trouble it in such a way that anybody coming there is afraid.
I thought you were saying that the federal government, instead of leaving it to the responsibility of the county, which might not be able to put themselves together, I thought you were actually
the federal government should own Dian.
That the federal government should own Dian. Okay, well, that's the question. Yes. What do you think?
Well, that's a very viable option that we can have. But I just want to tell you that there are options that are going on the ground right there in Dian that we don't need to talk about. There are things that are happening in the background that doesn't have to be spoken. But I can tell you that we have a lot of presence in Dian. It might not be in the large numbers that people are thinking of, but we have a presence there that's an effective presence. That's a very utilitarian group of people who are willing and able to work and who know what to do.
And what planning is just you don't need to divulge information about that.
That comforts me. That comforts me. That comforts me.
It's not that we are sleeping. We know where, we know what to do, we know when to do it, and we'll do it. As I said earlier, when that time will come, it will be known.
Dr. Tita,
Paddy, I want to say that this we should not apply the same condition that we're applying to other countries for Dian, because in Dian is a bread basket. In Dian is something that if we lose Dian, we have nothing.
In the strategy for Dian, you have said it loud and clear, must be unique. Dr. Tita, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, Director Paddy. Senior Barrister, I mean, I get what you're saying completely. I mean, I agree with you. Now, in the aspect of the strategy or the conditions, I think that it's very clear, you know, some of those conditions that were laid down yesterday, you agree with me that the federal government will continue to do what they're supposed to do, which is drafting all of the counties, irrespective of all of these conditions that were laid down, because we have this war to win. It's our responsibility and it's our duty as fellow Ambazonians to come in and support in these counties. Now, whether Dian was put at the last or at the end of the drafting session, would that have an impact on the action on the ground? I don't think so. And why do I not think so? Because we just completed the federal draft, and I know that the federal government can come in to support Indian, you know, in any area, in any aspect that they need in an effort for them to carry out the right action that they're supposed to carry on the ground. We need to make this very clear to every Ambazonians that none of us was trained for this, and this is in the aspect of the boys and what type of action that they can carry out. Remember that we were not informed that this war was going to start in 2017. We were not prepared to take the boys to go and train them and all that kind of stuff, or give them the right equipment that they need to in order to defend homeland. So this just came in and the boys decided to step up against the colonial regime. But let me tell you that from from that 2017 up to now, the boys have learned and they've acquired knowledge that can come in very helpful and handy in defeating the regime. I want to say this very clearly, like some of the discussions is going on that our boys don't have the equipment to blow up some of these uh, whether it's the oil wells or some of these areas there in Indian. I'm going to say that the knowledge is there, the know-how is there. We have guys on the ground that are very committed and they have this knowledge in order to carry out this project. The pressure now is it enough to be able to execute on some of this project? It's a gradual process. I can assure every Amazonian that gradually, we will get there where you will see this sophistication coming out on a regular basis on the ground. But one of the things I wanted to talk on, Paddy, you talked about what are we not doing right from the beginning. You talked about the UN is not updating the carnage that's going on the ground. I'm going to tell you from my own assessment, the UN is ashamed of the damage that they see on the ground and they're not taking action. The moment they start reporting or updating the real numbers that is happening on the ground, is going to be that moment where they need to make a decision or take action or call for La Republic Cameroon withdrawal from Amazonia. So that is for sure. So is that they're not reporting it or they're not making it public? It doesn't mean that they don't have it. They're receiving this data and they have it. They know it's very scary. This data is not easy numbers to just see all the carnage that La Republic Cameroon is committing on the ground. It's not been put out there yet because the moment that numbers goes out and is made public, they have to take action. Number two, what are we not doing right? Absolutely, this interim government under the leadership of His Excellency Dr. Samuel Ikomesako is doing everything right for the people of Amazonia. I can tell you that to make sure that our people get the freedom that they need, and our people must get the recognition that they need as an independent people. And La Republic Cameroon, colonial administrators and military have to move out of Amazonia, and that should be happening sooner than later. So there are all of these things that are happening, that is happening on the ground. So, but we continuously stay focused. The draft is coming up. The conditions of the draft that have been laid down by the Department of Finance and Resource Mobilization, and Resource Mobilization is there. The government is working very hard to make sure that every county is drafted, and for sure that every county will be drafted. Now, no matter the time, the federal government is there to come in to support the counties, and that's why we did. The president, did an upgrade, I consider, to the drafting period to the drafting system that we have by drafting the regions, so the federal government can have the money where.
Now, Dr. Tita, I want to stay with you a little bit. Listening to the president yesterday, fortunately, you've come up with a draft, county draft and federal draft, so that we get our people properly informed. We streamed the home front what was happening during the APP meeting yesterday. We did not stream it, but the president said something which I'm bringing so that you can answer a question. He said, prior to now, the interim government was just acting or playing the role of an oversight when it comes to the draft.
Oversight. Oversight.
Yes, just an oversight. So now the federal government decided with the new strategy to be strategically and proactively involved, not just to bring equilibrium, but to make sure that there is some level of sustenance. Yes. Don't you think this move by the federal government, considering the puncture that we had in 2021 into 2022, that has interrupted our defense apparatus, don't you think this is something that must be encouraged unwaveringly from bottom top and by every Amazonian?
Thank you so much for that question. I think that it must be strongly encouraged the decision that the president made after a critical assessment of what the struggle is and what the drafting program and system has been about, and the government just acting as an oversight with the counties implementing most of the decisions, or the counties making most of the decisions without the presence of the federal government. This gives us, now with the changes the president is making, give us that opportunity for us to make more progress, for us to see more positive results on the ground. So it's an extremely good thing. It's an extremely good decision from the president, and I'm extremely happy. I can't wait for us to really start drafting these counties after we just drafted the federal government, for us to start drafting these counties and for us to be seeing the right results that we need to see on the ground. I must say again that to anyone that thought that this revolution was going to crumble because of the sellout, the revolution is standing strong, and we will defeat La République du Cameroon under the great leadership of the President, His Excellency Dr. Samuel Ikomesako. Thank you so much, Director Paddy.
Perfect. Zama, I'm coming to you, SOS, to make sure that we nail this conversation. We are reacting now. I use the word react intentionally. We are reacting and talking and educating our people because of Cameroon's proactive propaganda. We are reacting to articles written by their bloggers promoting their endeavor. So that's not the first time Cameroon is doing something and we would have to react. Do you think that we're being overreactive instead of being proactive to handle some initiative and maybe letting them react to some of our... This is a war that is getting into its 7th year. Should we change certain strategies to move along?
I can tell you that most revolutionary wars are basically we are in the midpoint of a revolutionary war. Averagely, revolutionary wars are 13 to 13 years. So we are somewhere in the middle until we are galvanizing enough of our people, until our people see the necessity to fight this enemy. We will. The longer they stay with their wallets in their pockets, the longer this war will last. But going back to the enemy is just like a kids' league that everybody has a medal. Whether you win or you lose, you have a medal. La République is definitely a loser, and they are losing. They are trying to parade their old man as as an intelligent, smart man who avoided war but declares war. It's just the same like you see the African leaders who left. They left several wars in Africa to go commit themselves to resolve a war in Europe. We are always stupid that way. It's just that the thinking is very, very flawed. La République is doing what it does. It has to distract its people from what is going on. It has to distract its people from the bad roads. It has to distract its people from the inflation. I think it's now it's about 7 or 8%. It has to distract its people from the unemployment and the lack of health care. All those things, everything trick that they have to do to get their people to take their minds off their problems is what they will do. They are doing that. They are not fooling us. We took off those blinders from our eyes long time ago. So we know where they are going with their games. Regarding this nonsense they are talking about Bakassi for now, I can tell you for sure that there will always be people who will try to take high risk investment and lose it. Yes, they will do that. But at the end of the day, this is still a scramble, and it's a scramble that La République is losing. It doesn't have the power. It's in a very poor negotiating position, because for them to negotiate a fair deal for them in Bakassi, they will have to be strong enough. They will have to have a financial backing to contribute towards the investment. They are not able to. And so if at all they are stupid enough to go into any agreement right now, they'll be getting, I think, a penny on a dollar. But at that end, we will reach Bakassi when we reach Bakassi. And it's for sure we will be there. I'm just saying that we cannot do it at this point, but it doesn't mean that the journey is a journey. It's a journey of 1,000 steps starts with one step. We are step 7, and in 7 years of that war, we learn a lot, we know a lot, and we are doing a lot. La Republique is nowhere in Amazonia. They've retreated to enclaves. All of their mayors, all their governors are enclaved in upstation. Those in Boya are enclaved there. You see, these people are retreating. The first attempt that you know that the fire is hot is the first thing you withdraw your feet from the fire site before the flame engulfs you. They are doing that. They are running away. They know the day is coming. So they don't go out without 50, 60 bulletproof policemen guarding them. They don't do anything. They are basically prisoners in what they call their territory. They are not. They know that they are prisoners. They know that they are captors. They know that they are colonizers, and they are not moving freely as you think. So we've really contained them. The 2 weeks that they gave us in this war, they haven't been able to succeed in in 7 years. They are retreating, and they are retreating.
I think that 2 weeks that we've bought it is the first victory Amazonia ever had. 2 weeks later on was a major victory, and 7 years in is also a big victory. And you telling Amazonians 13 middle way, it's a knock in the hearts of some. We need to bring some hope to these people who are thinking that Amazonia is not going to be possible. As I speak to you right now, we have our own people, our Fons, colonial administrators residing in Yaoundé and orchestrating mayhem against their own people. During the week, we brought a follow-up of a story of the fun of Big Babanki. We are all aware of what has been happening in Big Babanki. 2 nights ago, a pastor in Bamenda was gone in her church, and there are very high chances that it was not random. It was probably targeted. The war in Amazonia is real. Some are denying to stand for the facts, but the war is ongoing. Now, to move on to the next phase of our conversation, I want us to have a recap of this discussion. We had. You want to say something, Barrister Fu?
Yes, I want to make 2 declarations, just 2. The
Okay,
first one is that La Republique has lost the war. They are desperate. They are crumbling. We must take cognizance of the fact that these are people who are desperate, and we must use the desperation of La Republique du Cameroon to sink them. How are they desperate? They are going after our vulnerable population, killing civilians, women, men, and children, women and young children, and children born or unborn. That's desperation. We must ensure that we sink them now. Number 2, I am calling on the federal government, given what we know about what is going to happen about Bakassi, I'm calling on the federal government to own Dian from now on. We're not going to wait. We're not going to wait for the draft of Dian, because the coup plotters dare the blow on us and kill the political elite of Amazonia in Dian. But our military presence is very active, like SOS has just said. What do? We cannot rely on any political elites to draft Dian. So what do? The federal government should own Dian from now on, because that is the breadbasket of Amazonia. That is it. Listen.
Thank you very much.
If La Republique, we don't have a navy. We don't have a navy. That's a navy, and their presence around that area is being felt. But we need to do something to trouble them, to make sure that the place is unsafe for anybody. That's why I'm calling on the federal government to own Dian right away. Right away. Because we cannot wait. August is coming. August is coming. Indian is drafting either in the middle of August or towards September or something. And that we cannot wait. That is my proposal.
The federal government and the strategies would have heard you very loud and clear. And that
Please, Director Paddy.
It is incumbent upon them to take and own and proactively address the situation in Dian militarily.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
You have a response because I need to move on to something else.
Yeah, we need to move on, but before we move on, I really want to hit hard on the first declaration that Senior Barrister made, which is clear that we have defeated Cameroon in this war. The fact that their militaries are still in our territory does not mean that we have not defeated them. I want to support that declaration that Senior Barrister just made here. We have defeated Cameroon. All the atrocities you see they are committing on the ground is out of extreme anger of the defeat that they've received. It's out of the anger of how much money Cameroon has put into destroying this struggle and destroying this interim government, and we defeated them. This is not only the first time. Back even from the days of the consortium, it was a big victory moving from the consortium to restoring our state home. It was a big victory after they picked up the former president Siko and they locked them up. They thought they were going to defeat us. It was a big victory when President Sako came in and declared stood for self-defense that no other president, no other leader in this struggle has ever stood for. That was a big victory. Despite all their efforts to dissolve the interim government, it was a big victory. You know, in bringing Sisiko there to destroy this interim government, it was a big victory. We defeated them. We continuously defeat them. Even when they use the largest mouth, Chris Anus, and they use the field marshal on the ground and pay them huge amount of money, we defeated them. In their effort to, in their Canada mafia process that they had, in trying to put some charade there, in working with some chiefs on the ground and some supposed sellouts in the diaspora, in their Canada process, we defeated them. Today, is July 1st of 2023. We are defeating Cameroon in every way, shape, or form. These guys are bitter. That's why they're committing all the atrocities that they're committing on the ground. We will defeat them. Thank you.
We defeated
and that's
them.
the fact. Unlike the presidency, you all are saying the same thing. And I like the fact that you're using different microphones to say the exact same thing very loudly. It's important for the people who are watching us home because they need these words to edify them. An evidence of Cameroon's frustration has been the evasion of Big Babanki. We've seen it during the past week, how civilians, or the past weeks, how civilians have been hunted, gone, or killed by the colonial administration. We have seen how young girls are being raped, and nobody seems to be talking about it. Now, a pastor has been gunned down, and I begin to ask, for those of you who are not doing anything, who is next? Are you waiting for someone in your family to become a victim before you take action? These are questions that you need to ask, and you need to ask them today. During the week, we had a report, and that was a follow-up on what is happening in Big Babanki. Now the phone, who has been a civil servant or politician, and probably a CPDM resident in Yaoundé, will call on the military and give them the authority to go and slaughter his own people. He flip-flops and tries to justify the reasons for his actions in a report that we have. Right after that report, we will come back to continue this conversation. Stay tuned.
And moving on, the fun of Big Babanki, Kijam Keku, a village in Choba local government area, Mazam County of the Midland Zone of Amazonia, has opened up on the prevailing security situation in his fundum. In an exclusive interview with Mimi Metho Info, the traditional ruler regretted that armed gang atrocities in Big Babanki had reached alarming proportion, forcing him to call in the military to restore order. Well, it is interesting to read about the interview's regret of having invited the Colonial Republic to Cameroon military. It is the same regret that Southern Cameroon's Amazonia regrets ever joining La Republique du Cameroon.
Well, unlike the people of Southern Cameroon, who are determined to see that the occupational forces of La Republique and all hard coordinated institutions leave Amazonia, His Royal Highness the Fawn of Babanki is not willing to force the Colonial La Republique soldiers out of his fundum. A comparative analysis of these atrocities committed in Big Babanki Amazonian fighters for the time they have been in that fundum is nothing compared to the atrocities committed by the Colonial La Republique soldiers in less than a month. As reported by Mimi Menfo Info, in 2023 alone, Amazonian fighters active in Big Babanki have killed no fewer than 6 civilians, shot a woman in the leg, and assaulted scores of women, and have also usurped the powers of the traditional authorities.
La Republique du Cameroon occupational forces on their part have killed dozens of civilians, including a nursing mother, a deaf and dumb and middle-aged man, adding to the civilian killings. The La Republique du Cameroon terrorist soldiers carried away 1 goat, 3 pigs, and too many animals that belong to the deceased. Now, this implies the La Republique du Cameroon forces have instead done more harm than good. Now, in the exchange with Mimi Mefo Info, Fon confessed that La Republique du Cameroon military is targeted at killing civilians, but unfortunately confessed that the La Republique du Cameroon military has come to stay. So, the Fon has powers to inform the Colonial La Republique du Cameroon military without the necessary powers to prevent them from killing his people.
Well, the Fon of Big Babanki, Fon Vubasig Benjamin, has acknowledged that the Colonial La Republique soldiers are targeting civilians for the kill. Well, this confession is revealed in an exchange the Fon had with Mimi Mefo Info. The Fon was responding from Yaoundé, the colonial political capital of La Republique, from where he had been ruling his fundum.
Well, you will recall that the Colonial La Republique du Cameroon government military invaded Big Babanki at the request of the Fon, who claimed that armed gangs were committing a lot of atrocities to his people. Well, this particular news detail we brought to you throughout last week. From June 11th, the number of human casualties is more than a dozen, with women included. The village is in chaos now. People are scared. Just as I am speaking to you, 3 people were killed a day before yesterday. One guy just sent me a picture of his uncle who was killed and burnt in his house by state forces. Now, not everyone that has been killed in Amber. Let us be honest here. It means that the military is just targeting civilians. The rate of destruction is huge. Shops are being looted. Now, this is what the Fon said. The question is, why not call off this military? When asked what is the way forward, in his response, he says the way forward is that we cannot reverse the situation at hand. He goes on to say the military has come to stay, so the way forward for us now is to work with hierarchy of the military to stabilize the situation so that the innocent civilians don't get killed or harmed anymore. Why not call them off is the question.
Well, the Fon has been ruling his fundum from Yaoundé and is still confident that he can manage the situation of his fundum from outside. He says, I have been working in Yaoundé even before I became Fon. It is not as if I ran to Yaoundé. I've been working in Yaoundé for over 30 years now, and he says he's been ruling his people. We have strong institutions in the village. I have the traditional council, the Ngumba, and other institutions that are in the village. If there's any case of military excesses, I can handle it with a military hierarchy. The population should remain calm. This is what he said. I hope he doesn't do that when it's too late, when the entire village is already empty of youth and living people. The Fon refused the allegations that he usurped power and became the Fon of Kejum Kiko. You cannot usurp a palace because many people must come together to enthrone the Fon. The previous Fon, Fon Vubasing Simon Vuga II, had land problems among other problems with the villagers, which forced him to voluntarily abdicate on 3rd February 2004 and left the village. He says, I was enthroned in June 2004. On 19 January 2006, he came back to the village and wanted to take over the throne. He was lynched by the villagers. I was in Yaoundé at the time. I lamented that if I was in the village when he returned, I would have preferred that the villagers kill me and spare his life. This ugly incident happened close to 2 years after I became Fon, he said. Spare him and kill me instead. But then you watch your fondom, people of your fondom get killed by people you brought in to protect. This is rather ironic and seemingly not very the case.
So you've seen for yourself the fun flip-flopping and having the audacity to tell Amazonians that he's going to use their killers to mitigate peace of some form. He really doesn't even care to seek for justice for a supposed trained military that will spray people like chickens or like animals. I want to start with you, SOS.
To be honest, this gentleman, I don't know. I don't know what he drinks because I don't think he learned the lesson that his brother, his late brother, went through. His late brother was literally burnt alive. Just for similar situations like this, he sided with Don Polo, giving out the most fertile areas of the village to the cattleman, and they asked him to reverse course. He went to court and supported Dan Polo. So the villager said, no more, he cannot come back. I think this guy should be declared the same. He should be declared persona non grata from that village. To be honest, any chief who is not in his palace, fighting with his people, crying with his people, bearing their death, should not come back to Amazonia. We should be able to mandate that. We should be able to get a king regent until a time where we can have a substitution for them. But these particular guys who are in Yaoundé should be stripped naked from what they are. They are no chiefs. They are not a chief in our traditional grassland area. You stay with your people and you die with them if need be. These cowards run away to Yaoundé and they're eating with the enemy and sending more of the enemy to come and finish off their enemies in the village. He set up the village women to go out to protest that they were being taxed a lot, which was a lie. And one of the counselors who said, no, they should not set up these women like that, he later on pointed out that gentleman that he was an Amba supporter and he got killed by the military. There are quite a few of the other people who are being targeted killing in Babanki just because of this gentleman. He calls himself the chief or the fun. Well, we should take that title from him because he doesn't deserve it. He was not enthroned. The person who was supposed to succeed the gentleman who was killed was his son. But he came in as the brother of the king to take over the palace. It was just a palace coup that he did. He's just a very, very Machiavellian person. And he's going to do that. He's one of those people who was not even invited to attend the coronation of the king of Mankon. The king of Mankon said they do not want him because they do not acknowledge him. And that's the kind of person he is. He's trying to enthrall the enemy, to support the enemy, to kill his people.
The truth about it is that the form of Mankon is not any better. But I'll get to that, and I like what you're saying. Just keep on going.
Well, I think there are a whole different category of people. One is with his own people. You can put them in the same line with the chief, the Fon of Bali, and all the other ones who've run to Yaoundé. But we have to put our foot on the ground and draw a line that any chief or any Fon who has left the palace and stay out more than a year, we have a right to nominate a chief, a caretaker that can take care of the people in the village, not some Vasa sitting up in Yaoundé.
You see, there's been a big concern here, a very, very, very huge concern. And here's the concern. The concern is we as a people in Africa, that is from Africa in general, and Ambazonia in particular were holding too tight. We're holding too tight on things that do not work, like the chiefdoms and the fondoms. Now, I did an apology, and one of the very basic understanding or definition when it comes to cultures and tradition, it is simply a way a people live in a particular area in a particular time. But it would appear that our people want the way our parents lived 100 years ago. They want us to come and live the same way, respecting some auxiliary, corrupted people that are not working for our interests. Let me get down to some ancient history. When the white man wanted cheap labor or free labor and wanted slaves, their access into the hinterlands were facilitated by none other but traditional rulers. When the colonialists came, most of their access or penetration were facilitated by traditional rulers. If anybody has read the history of the Cameroons, you hear of the late night meetings of the Douala chiefs and what came out of some of those meetings and the impact it has in us today. It all boils down to traditional rulers. When the colonizer Bia wants to gain authority over our land, I'm going to quote a scripture for those of you who are Christian so that you understand that I'm talking from a historic perspective, from a logical perspective, and from a spiritual perspective. When Bia wanted authority, he came. And all the funds came together and made him funds of funds, which means spiritually that you've given to him authority. And that authority is recognized in the realms of the spirit. So you sell your authority to a Bulu man who has no regard for your originality. The Bible says, give honor to whom honor is due. So you're giving an honor that you can now not even take back. And it is so easy for you not to see that your people are a victim of such. So my proposal, I'm talking to you as an elderly man, Barrister Fru, is that these fondoms, chiefdoms, should be put to a halt, rephrased completely, dissolved, or changed to something. Read the history of Europe and many other, even the British Kingdom is evolving to make sure that the people can witness prosperity. We cannot allow these guys again. They have failed us. They continue to fail us. I'm talking, I've said this on air a couple of times relating to the one in Bui. That man looked into the eyes of Ambazonians and told them, even at the time they arrested him, and told them that he prefers beer than them. That's what he said. So it is foolish. I'm sorry. It is very foolish for you to say that you want to respect him because he's a fan of your land. When he doesn't respect you, he doesn't even respect your shrines or the fondom, and you're respecting him. What has come over us? What is wrong with us? Barrister Fru, please.
Listen, Paddy, I like what you have said, but your conclusions to me are wrong. Let me explain.
Okay. No problem.
In the days of the Southern Cameroons, the chiefs and fonds played a major role in the decolonization, which didn't work at any rate, of the Southern Cameroons. You remember the participation of the Fund of Bafut in the 1959 conference in Manfred.
Yes.
You remember the participation of from Gallagher from Bali. I'm not talking about this renegade, this idiot who is now the founder of Bali. I'm talking about his grandfather. You remember the role he played in the colonial days?
Yes.
Between the northern zone and the Douala and the Douala funds.
Yes.
We cannot abolish our traditional institutions. We are going to reform. Well, hold on. Let me finish now. I'm giving you my own solution. We are going to reform the traditional institution by law, and the House of Chiefs will be revived to act like a Senate. But without listen now. Listen now, Paddy. When you were speaking, I was listening. You are going to distort my thesis.
Go ahead.
Listen. The House of Chiefs in Southern Cameroon played a major role. They didn't have legislative powers, and we are not going to give legislative powers to the funds. But we are going to maintain a House of Chiefs as it then was. By law, we'll go back to the archives and see how successful the funds and chiefs were then, and we will establish a new law of traditional institutions in the Southern Cameroon. Having said that,
the chiefs now.
Can you allow me?
No, the chiefs.
Can you allow me finish?
Yeah, I want to ask a question to help you connect. Do the chiefs now have legislative power in the Cameroons?
No. But they have been indoctrinated. They have been indoctrinated. They have been given money. They are being paid a salary, and they have been made auxiliaries of the administration. In the Southern Cameroon, no chief was any auxiliary of any administration. Can you imagine what the late fund of Stock did to Ahijo? Ahijo invited him to come to Yaoundé. He said, no, the fund cannot be displaced. And Ahijo moved to So to meet the fund of So. To tell you how powerful. Listen.
The funds now that are betraying. Before, I don't want to talk about
no.
Now.
All the funds. Listen. All the funds now, except a few. Look, I still have a lot of respect for the fund of Bafut.
Yes.
The fund of Mancon, who is my fund, is controversial and stupid, but at least he is in Mancon. He is in Mancon ruling the people in his own way. I can argue that it's a CPDM way, but he is there. But can you say the same thing about Bali?
Gave intelligence for one of our fighters to be killed.
Yes, he gave intelligence for one of our fighters to be killed. But let me tell you the connection
that have become facilitated.
Paddy, can you allow me speak? You brought up a very important topic, and you are distorting my thoughts.
It's a conversation.
Babanki. Okay, Babanki. When the first fund of Babanki who was lynched, when they went after him, he ran into the fund of Mancon and stayed in the fund of Mancon's palace for 2 years. And he's a very stupid man. He thought that his people have forgotten about the evil that he did to his people. He got up one morning and said, I'm going back, my people want me. And he went back and was lynched. This other stupid brother of his, who's in Yaoundé, just listen to the way he's talking. If he thinks that the Ambazonia Restoration Forces will allow Cameroon army to occupy that Babanki village, let him think again. That's why the Mezam Restoration Forces must dislodge any kind of military presence in Babanki. Number two, the Restoration Forces in Mezam must not allow the corps of Frundi to enter through Matazem. If they do, it will be a failure on their part, because the corps of Frundi are still in Yaoundé. And that's the greatest enabler.
I don't want us to.
No. I'm just giving you.
No.
Paddy. I am not putting him in the same category of funds, but I'm putting him in the same category of those funds who are enablers, who are living in Yaoundé, who have transferred their policies to Yaoundé. They cannot come back to Ambazonia. Those funds.
Let us not talk about the fruit.
No, listen to me now. What? No, Paddy, you're not listening to me. You're not listening to me. The funds who are in Yaoundé are enabler. They have transferred our traditional institutions from our villages in Ambazonia into Yaoundé. They will not come back. They should not be allowed to come back, dead or alive. That includes that, more especially that fund of Babanki. And of course the fund of Bali and others who are living in Yaoundé. They should not be brought back dead or alive. That includes, I'm talking about enablers now. That includes Prundi. It's an enabler in the same category. It's in the same category, in the same category like the fund.
On that issue purposefully, please. If you want, I'll tell you why. For now, I'll cut you on that purposefully. Now, for the funds, I've asked a question, and I'll get back to Zama on that, but we'll allow.
No, let me answer. I've answered your question. Yes, and the question is, we are not going to consider any fundum now. When we get there, we will establish a traditional institution with laws, and those funds that have stayed with their people and they are defending the cause of Ambazonia will be rehabilitated. Those funds, like the other funds.
This is the worry I have. This is the worry here now. But SOS Zama said something which I'm sure you did not hear, which I think is something that is adoptable, which I think would be a better solution. Now, let's, like I said, forget about the fronting issue for now. But concerning what to do with these funds, you are talking about what we'll do in future, either when they are coming or when they are dead. But SOS Zama said something that they can be replaced during this time of war. There was a time some people suggested.
Oh, I agree with that. I agree with that.
A moment, Barizafro. There was a time someone suggested that because I like what the president says all the time, solve a problem by elimination. We cannot continuously come back every day to solve problems of funds. This fund has done this. The next one is protected by Yaoundé and goes and takes his bribe. And the next one does this. This fund did. You know, we cannot. We have to look for a way so that these guys understand we are serious, to replace them and demystify whatever is in those offices.
Correct. What I was saying, what I concur with SOS Zama, that any fund that has left and is in Yaoundé should be replaced right now, temporary, because our traditions do not allow just anybody to sit on the throne. But we will replace them. Why waiting? Can I finish?
The funds themselves.
Can I finish? Can I finish? No. Let me finish now. Could you allow me finish, for heaven's sake, or I leave the program?
Go ahead then.
I am saying those that have already abdicated should be replaced right now. I concur with SOS Zama. But what I'm also saying is that when they replace you, you should not arrogate to yourself total powers of running that village. You have to wait. We will put the law that regulates traditional institutions, and we'll take it from there. But for now, those that have abdicated and they are in Yaoundé, it should be replaced right away. Right away.
Yeah, thank you so much, Director Paddy. Senior Barrister, I mean, this conversation is, I see it's a very heated discussion. But I must say that I agree with what SOS Zama stated very clearly. If there is any chief or fund that is out of Amazonia and is living in neighboring Larviju, Cameroon, that they find neighboring Larviju, Cameroon safer, and they have moved out of the territory. They have given over, they've handed the territory over to the colonial administrators. That's the colonial divisional officer and the colonial senior divisional officer. If you pull the list of those colonial administrators, they're all francophones. They're all most of them. Let me not say all. Most of them are francophone. So 90 to 95% are francophone. You could pull out that data and see. So there are francophones that are coming into our territory and governing our territory. So, like SOS Zama clearly stated that any chiefs or fund that have lived from the territory, or any chief or fund that is in Amazonia working in collaboration or in complicity with the colonial regime to kill our people should be replaced and must be replaced. There is supposed even during
Should be
war, you see
replaced and must be replaced now.
yes,
We
they
don't
must be
wait
replaced now.
until
Yes,
they die.
yes.
We all agree with that.
Yes,
We all agree with that.
It's important for our people to think about that. And because
yes,
who is an enemy? Who is an enemy in a war here? The SDOs or colonial administrators are enemies. When a man stands against his people, that person is an enemy. Political leader, SDO, whether you are a Southern Cameroonian born, you be constitute yourself as the enemy of Southern Cameroon's freedom. And therefore, intentional actions should be taken against you. For instance, the president was asking, someone was asking the other day, how do we still have SDOs still gallivanting in Southern Cameroon? Colonial administration or administrators gallivanting in Southern Cameroon. That is an apology. Please, you want to conclude? We have a caller.
yes.
Well,
These are
go ahead.
No, just finish. I'll come back to you, Comrade Zama. I'll come back to you. Let's take the caller. Dr. Finish. Let's take the caller, and then I'll come to you.
Yeah, these are colonial administrators that are being protected by the military. So they have that military security and all of that. Know that this war is costing Larviju, Cameroon billions or even more. And Larviju, Cameroon cannot provide security to all of the enablers or the people they are working with on the ground. That's why most of them, sometimes some of them have to move out of the territory because they are themselves are afraid. Now, to our people that are working and look at these leaders and see these leaders are still the leaders, even though they're working with the enemy. I don't think that most of them are really agree with these so-called chiefs or funds that are working in complicity with Larviju, Cameroon. I think they've completely disowned them. The only thing is, how do they go through the process of removing these people? And that is supposed to be another process. So as long as we can even find a way to really instruct or tell our people, educate our people on how to go about just replacing these chiefs of funds, that will go a long way to help them in order to complete that process that we need done. But at the meantime, whatever the funds are doing does not mean that our people are in support of what the funds and chiefs are doing. The funds, most of these funds and chiefs that are working with the colonial regime are corrupt. They've been corrupted with money and with gifts and all of that stuff. And we know that. That's why all of them are running away from the territory. But sooner or later, we will be done with this struggle. And they will stay over there in the colonial capital or wherever they are or in neighboring Republic of Cameroon. They will not come back to the territory. They should know that every action that they do,
they make the work very complicated for us. They penetrate the societies, help the colonizer to manipulate and bribe the people. And in fact, they are the most intelligence Cameroon gets through these guys. So something has got to be done and should be done now. So I agree with that opinion. So caller, we hear you and then we'll come back to conclude.
Hello, Mr. Director.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, this is UN speaking.
Yes, go ahead, please.
I want to give special thanks to you people for educating our population and our Amazonia people. And what I wanted to say, or maybe what I'm trying to say, I think Dr. Tita just echoed my mind.
Yeah.
the struggle started because La Republic wanted to destroy our judicial system, our cultural system. That's why we have culturalism, bilingualism, and all those kind of stuff. So we should be very careful as to what we do with our chiefs. Are those chiefs, I mean, are they independent? Do they have the powers? Let me give you an example. La Republic and Southern Cameroon, which country is independent? Southern Cameroon is independent. La Republic is not. La Republic create a government in La Republic without going to France to submit it. Even a national dialogue, you go to France. The French president will say, I've asked you to release political prisoners, otherwise you don't come here. All those things, they report it in France. I mean to France. Because they don't have the power. La Republic citizens, they keep telling people, there are people, oh, Bia is a bad person, Bia doesn't even have any power. Like the prime minister that they say is John Guti. He's just a houseboy. Our chiefs, before the coming of the colonialists and the coming of nation state and whatsoever, they were there with us. And we know how we used to, succession used to come about. And it was not dictated by some people. So we cannot come out today because one of our chiefs, like maybe the phone or so, because I don't know the level of adrenaline that is in his system, we go and be conniving with the people who say we want to replace them. La Republic interest is that we have been so attached and so difficult to assimilate because of our culture, our cultural heritage. For them, they want to destroy us by introducing new chiefs, by saying those chiefs who collaborate with the CPDM government and whatsoever. We must be very careful before we go against our chiefs. Even the son of Banso, who is in Yaoundé, is he in Yaoundé?